University in Rome and obtained a PhD in bioethics. Dr. Versace has given seminars on bioethics in various parts of the world: Galilee, Toronto, South Africa, and Congo. Dr. Gianna Salvitti, she's also from Italy and currently resides in England. She is a computer programmer, scientist, as well as a psychologist specializing in social reintegration and addiction treatment. She holds a degree in cognitive process and new technologies. She has been professing as a psychologist for 30 years and dealing with addiction and recovery. As well, she is the president since 2001 of a Catholic association called Faithful Friends of Mary Magdalene. And they work especially with the marginalized. Then we have Father Francesco Donega, who is also from Italy, was a missionary lay minister in various parts of Africa for 10 years, in Zaire, Kenya, and Tanzania. He holds a bachelor's degree in sacred theology from the Pontifical Gregorian University and a licentiate in sacred liturgy at the Pontifical Liturgical Institute of Saint Anselm. Father Donega was rector of a seminary for 23 years in London, England, and also was a professor at the university in the Diocese of Westminster. He also gave courses in sacramental theology, and he is presently the rector at the Redemptoris Mater Seminary in Rome. So please, let's give our guest speakers a round of applause as a welcome. So now I'll pass the word to Dr. Renato Versace. Avanti Renato, sei è tutto tuo.
Oh, okay, so I'll start translating now. Hope you can listen to me. I greet all our friends who are following us, those on the web. I'll try to be the simplest possible in my relation, in my speech, but also I will have to use some medical terms which I cannot reduce further. I'll try to be the simplest I can, the easiest I can. I heard during this year, you have meditated on the document of the Pontifical Congregation for the Family, entitled Human Sexuality, on the meaning and significance. It's a document of 1995, so almost 30 years old. This document represented the fruit of a spring in the church, which initiated in 1968 with Humane Vitae, and continued with the catechesis on human sexuality of John Paul II from 1979 to 1985. Which is a whole work which has been collected into a big book called Male, Female, He Created Them. I found this document very interesting from the ethical point of view, because it gave me some push to try to find connections between faith and reason. For the first time, I've seen has reason, human reason, supports what the church in so many centuries has said. I'll say that this document, which you will use as a basis, sought to explain what it means to be for man and you and woman to be image and likeness of God. Now, for many years, we stopped at image and likeness of God, or these words, which most of us just could consider as mysterious, also because these words just translate in a bad way what is in the original language Hebrew, which words means, in fact, one means rib, and the other one means go beyond death. So, which means image, which that image of God means that we are a rib of God, which goes beyond death, which has nothing to do probably with what we normally think. Now, this tells us what the essence is, of which Father Donegal will speak about. I instead want to underline what man and woman mean from an ethical point of view, because image expresses ontology, but also man and woman, for who they are, express in the way they relate to each other. This is because most of the times we have seen sexuality as one of the aspects of human life, sometimes even marginal, let's say. Someone think that was kind of hard even to deal with. But reality is that being image and likeness of God is strictly connected to sexuality. We can't be image and likeness of God without sexuality. But for many years and centuries, as you know, within the church, also for several reasons, like modesty and morality, has been hard to deal with it. But the people of God, for this reason, often has not understood the importance of sexuality in being human. It is fundamental. In an appointment I had with my two co-speakers, we need to underline that sexuality is so important in the being of man that Saint Thomas says that sexuality is part of the resurrection of the flesh. So we rise again as sexual beings. Not only, there is another affirmation which might seem to be paradoxical, that the Lord creates man and woman, but not only that, but God gives also a sexualized soul in a sense. So the soul, our soul, is not neutral, not even the soul. You have, let's say, a woman's soul and a man's soul, so that we will never really speak about a human being as an absolute, like as an abstraction, right? But man is because he is man and woman, male and female. Now, it is true that in all this there are many human sufferings and wounds, but it is true that human being can only exist insofar as is either man or woman, not only in body, but also in soul. This is also what the church's tradition says, because probably that would be really probably would be really good also that the church could say this even more openly, because otherwise we tend to think that the human soul is something like abstract, platonic. At least in the church, we need to say that, which is there is nothing beyond or besides man and woman. In some sense, uh, before in, into uh, entering into this topic, so we have to say that sexuality is important for the relationship. Adam knows himself uh, through the beauty of Eve. This is flesh of my flesh, bones of my bones. This is not an accidental language. It's not even a reduction of logic language. Even today in philosophy, we can say that our knowledge is not only logic, is embodied. There is no knowledge which can go besides our body. Now, when we mean body and bodily knowledge, we mean sexual sexual bodily knowledge. Now, Paul VI in Humane Vitae said that the identity of man and woman are exalted in the intimate union of the bodies. Marriage, so in sexuality in marriage is necessary so that man and woman may find their identity, which is not a logic identity, but an embodied identity. Anyway, I mean, Christ, who is the Word in himself, he has accepted to make himself flesh, and flesh in a human body, precisely a male body. So let's start from Adam, who contemplating Eve finds himself the mystery um, of Scripture, the most profound mystery in Scriptures, which finds its fulfillment in Mary, is the mystery of woman. Now then we can understand now how today the attitude towards women is so difficult, and also all this feminism, all this mask covers what really is the mystery behind, because man can only find himself by knowing the language of woman's body. I like what the Talmud says, which in a way which might seem almost disrespectful, says, Lord, I thank you, not because you have not created me a woman. It seems to be disrespectful, but the Talmud says that we can never or should never stop at the first interpretation. In fact, it adds, I thank you that you didn't create me woman, so that I may know you through the 613 precepts, while the woman can know God only through one precept, which is to turn on the light in Shabbat. So the woman kind of have them in her body language, while man is called to discover this in the mystery of the woman's body. The Talmud also says that the recompense that is given to the just women is more than what is given to just men. And also it says that the Lord has given to the world 10 measures, and 9 of them have been taken by Mary is the highest revelation of who a woman is, which we see especially in the litanies of the Rosary, when we hear all the characteristics of a woman, all these characteristics of the woman uh, are offended and completely disrespected by today's culture, and especially to be mother and to be wife. This is very important. So let us try to understand how we can discover the message, the mystery which she has in himself. In her cycle, the woman repeats every month the same event, but every single month there is a new egg. A new egg. It's like the cycle of the Jewish festivity, which always repeat themselves, but the rule is new. Like the woman, therefore, is the Jewish first par excellence. Now, I'm gonna tell you a few things about something that science discovered about the woman's body, something which is not existent in the body of the man. First of all, I invite everyone to read, so that you may not get scandalized, chapter 15 of the book of Leviticus, where it speaks about woman's sexuality with a language that is purified month by month, so that man can understand it. This is the phenomenon of the so-called niddah, which is what we translate as impurity, but impurity is not exactly the real word in Hebrew. Let's take the mystery of the woman. So, the woman is never the same. So we can never interpret a woman with just one measure. Everybody knows that the woman has a menstrual cycle which lasts 28 days. And the ovulation is at day 14, of course, in a standard cycle. But is she always the same woman? It is very interesting to see how in the first 14 days, the woman, she's subject to many impulses, different impulses that manifest who she is. For instance, right after the period, the woman produces a male hormone called testosterone that makes the woman particularly exposed to the relationship with men. So after that period, in the woman, the desire for relating to a man increases, and the woman is very extrovert in that time. I'm sure there are many men that don't even know that the woman in those days, right after the period, she becomes so extrovert because she is, of course, drawn to generate life. Now, after these first 7 days, the woman starts to produce from day 7 to 14 is her main hormones, which is the estrogen. Now, these hormones works in the being of the woman because together with the estrogen, she produces serotonin and endorphins, which are hormones that give joy and peace to the woman. And um, these hormones are also the ones that connect mother and daughter when 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 the woman is pregnant, she produces oxytocin in a measure which is 30 times more than normally. But also during the cycle, from day 7 to 14, the woman produces more oxytocin, which makes her more drawn to relation, to relate with someone else. She desires to find peace in the relationship with men. I hope nobody gets scandalized of what I say, because if we get scandalized, we are getting scandalized of God, who has made things in this way. That's what who a woman says. And this is holy because the marriage is holy. So what we say now is that man needs to understand how woman is speaking through the cycle, through her body. Day 14 now. Now, um, the egg. So, how can we be that many in the world if the egg survives only 24 hours? So, after ovulation, we have two options. Either the woman remains pregnant or she doesn't. Now, what happens? That after that, the woman changes the hormone that, so she starts to produce progesterone. And that hormone changes the nature of the woman completely. If before that she was extrovert, she becomes introvert, even sad, even she tends to depression. Now, the woman, the word nida, which is the word that the Bible uses for impurity, in fact, it means mourning. Mourning. So the woman, when she does not remain pregnant, she enters into this mourning, which in the Bible in the book of Leviticus, it's made clean by the purification which has to be done by the woman. So the body of the woman sends us a language which tells us that she goes from a stage of perfect symbiosis with man towards a stage where the relationship with man becomes more difficult. Who has read Humane Vitae, sometimes at least, kind of finds the mystery in there. It says that the sexual act must join together the unitive moment and the procreative moment. Think about that. The first 14 days confirm this, because in the first 14 days there is the woman is drawn towards the unitive moment. But after after the 14th days, if the egg has not been fecundated, her body enters into mourning, no matter what you think, feminist or not. Now, these are studies made in the Catholic University. Now the switching of these hormones tell us when the woman is ready to procreate. The the estrogens change the secretions of the fluid in the womb of the woman, and this fluid becomes is not fully liquid, but they look like pipes, organ pipes. Sometime, so think about this mucus uh, as like organ pipes, call them like this, which they have each one a diameter of 10 microns, which allows the sperm to pass in. When we go beyond that time, the diameter of these organ pipes of the fluid of the woman becomes so narrow that the sperm cannot pass anymore. So you understand that if when man uh, does not know the language of the woman's body, we understand why many even marriage crises come, because the man despises, uh, does not know the language of the woman's body. And woman, Eve, in Hebrew means life. So it is interesting to see that the cycle of the woman is not monotone. It has these moments of uh, change. Now, it is very interesting to say that contraception changes this completely, because the first aspect of the body that is important is the so-called cervical mucus, which contraception makes produce lesser and lesser, which means that without the production of cervical mucus with contraception becomes very, very poor, because and makes the woman uh, little by little sterile. If you take the pill when you start, not as normally it happens when you are very young, for many, many years, little by little, you become sterile, so that even if you stop taking the pill, you will not remain pregnant. It will be opportune, it will be necessary that the doctors who prescribe the pill to the woman, especially to young women, should make them informed about all the problems that they come with it, which they will push her to artificial like IVF and things like this afterwards. But if the woman gets pregnant, so let's say, does the world say about the embryo? The embryo is just a bunch of cells, say the word. Yet, this is not true. So, a woman who gets pregnant before she is aware of it, normally women realize they are pregnant after about a month of pregnancy. But much before that, there is a dialogue between the body of the woman and the embryo, which is driven not by the body of the woman, but by the embryo. Now, medicine that today has understood this more properly, we have understood which cell the embryo sends to the mom, and the cells that the mom exchanges with the embryo. After 28 days of pregnancy, the mother and the son and the child, they dialogue through an exchange of cells, which are crucial so that the mother would not abort the child, because without this dialogue, the mother would abort the child. So basically, it is the embryo, the child, that through this dialogue convinces the mother to reduce the immunitarian function, so that she may not abort the child. Not only the child sends these cells to the mother, and these cells they go and place themselves in some special parts of the woman's body, in a special way in the brain, in the amygdala, which is the place of fear, and in the hippocampus, which where there is memory, and in the part which is dedicated to affectivity. So after 28 days, this bunch of cells that is the world tells us to abort, in fact, it's already able to dialogue with the mother to convince her not to kill him, which we think the dialogue can be only done through word, but the deepest dialogue is always nonverbal. And this dialogue between the mom and the embryo can clearly say something about, for instance, the so-called surrogated motherhood, because the link between the embryo and the mother that is gestating the embryo is so strong that these will never be able to reconnect with another woman. Now, medicine, in this sense, today is, through its finding, is really putting into ridiculous what the world is saying concerning everything we hear, because we are entering more and more into this mystery of the woman's body, both the woman that gets pregnant and the woman that does not get pregnant. All this, of course, for men is impossible. Now, think that sometimes the mother transmits to the embryo cells that the mother has received from previous children, when of course there are previous children. So it's like the mother transmitting to the embryo information regarding its siblings, which is unbelievable, and opens, let's say, a world regarding the body of the woman, which are really amazing. Then I want to tell you a last thing, because then about anthropology Father Donag will speak. Now, many women today use the so-called IUD, which is an element which is put in the uterus of the man not to have children. The IUD uh, brings about a complete atrophy, a complete destruction of the womb, really, of the entrance of the womb, because the damage is almost impossible to repair. Now, last thing. Today, we stand to say that we give a so-called mini pill, because if we think that in this way we have less problems for the woman's health. But the reality is that the mini pill is even worse, because it produces less estrogen, which ultimately what happens is that you are not contracepting, but you are, in fact, becoming pregnant, but the embryo cannot attach to the womb and is aborted. Now, those who give the consent to distribution of medicine should reevaluate this, and should be told, should be said to the woman that by using the pill, they could basically have 1, 2, even more abortion per year. And this low dosage pill is by far the one which is most sold, but nobody says what this can bring about. In this way, the language of the woman's body is completely hidden to man, and man, who is completely unaware of all these aspects of women's body, do not know anything about her and run the risk to become crazy. And now I stop. The woman, when she gets to menopause, uh, she goes basically through a transfiguration, which is far more strong, is far stronger than the one of the man. Okay. The woman after menopause, she starts to learn another language, which is a language more effective, which is in her nature, but that the man does not have. I hope to be very simple. Embryo transmits to the mother staminal cells, stem cells, which are immortal, that will, and this cell will remain in the body of the mother for more than 35 years. And these cells will influence the relationship man, mother, child in a way which, of course, would be far superior than any relationship between the father and the child. And these stem cells change the woman because they go to the brain of the woman. Therefore, they change her way of being. Very important areas of the brain about which we can just make some guessing, let's say, but that are definitely fundamental for the woman's relational life. And that explains why, for instance, there is a link between abortion and suicide, because those women who have aborted have a higher rate of suicide because of this chemical reaction, chemical relationship between the mother and the child. So basically, abortion is like it's like someone having his leg or her leg being cut off. So it's a huge wound. You cannot be happy about that. Yes, there is a connection because the use of many pill, which is this pill basically does not, the mini pill, the low dosage pill, basically cannot prevent ovulation, which means which the egg is still there and the woman has a sexual relationship during the fertile period, we will have an embryo, a fecundation. But the mini pill will basically prevent the attachment of the embryo to the womb, but and therefore it will be aborted. Now, since we cannot realize that, we think we are happy, but we are not, because the consequences are there. In Italy, you can abort until up to the third. Okay. Now talking about the relationship between embryo and mother, right? Now, based on cell exchange, now we do not know exactly. We just know that there is this relationship at the 28 days, okay? But we don't have scientific data to say that this relationship is already there at the very beginning. But these cells are there, and there's a DNA exchange between woman and child. So it's not for sure, it's not impossible that this relationship starts exactly from the very beginning. And these cells, they touch profoundly the identity of the woman. Then a woman can abort or not, but the wound is there. So even if you exercise, if you want to abort, still your body will be wounded.
But so what he was saying before, there is not a scientific assertion of how the embryo that is aborted without knowing influence the mother. But he says that the embryo and the mother, since the beginning of conception, exchange the DNA of the embryo, the DNA of the mother. And so it touches the deepest essence of the womb. And as a consequence, also the mental thing. Bennett, is there another? Yes, go ahead.
I wrote it down. Just want to translate. My question is, what is the spiritual purpose or theological purpose of the seemingly volatile nature of a woman's cycle? And why do women seem to become very attuned to and intolerant of the sins and faults of our husbands?
Like, said it already. You were not here. What time did you come?
I missed it.
Yeah, he said it.
Oh, really?
He did.
Yeah. Oh, I missed it.
That means he will repeat again.
I missed it. Recorded.
It's
Okay.
recorded
Okay,
after
okay.
you. No, Renato, dove sta? Renato, domandava una madre qui, però io le ho detto che tu avevi già parlato, cioè del ciclo menstruale, come viene affettata la donna una volta che passa 14 giorni e va avanti così. E lei domandava proprio quello. E soprattutto si centrava la incapacità di accettare i peccati del marito. Speaker, sorry.
I would rather
Aspetta un attimo.
prefer the priest to answer this question about accepting the sin of the husband. Okay, now the man's fault, the husband's fault, is that the woman has not initiated him to the language of her body, because we are all adults here, right? Now, what happens in the nuptial bed normally has nothing to do with the language of the woman's body, and the man doesn't care, and the woman does not start initiating the man to her language, and everything is done as a fast food in a hurry. But when John Paul II used to speak about the chastity within marriage, he used to speak about the opening to know the language of the woman's body. That this is done between the 10th and the 14th day of the cycle of the woman when she's fertile. Okay, and the woman can open herself to life in that moment when man is able to convince her. So there is a relationship which needs to be deepened by the two in mutual understanding.
Okay, now some more questions perhaps, but we have the other two speakers, and I think we need to move on. Gianna Salvitti. Is there another question that cannot wait? Otherwise, we go with Dr. Gianna Salvitti. Gianna, benvenuta. Prima Francesco Donera? Bene, scusa. Carissimo Francesco, benvenuto nel Yukon, anche se è tramite il videocamera. You know, I did the seminary with him. He's from Venice. He was a rector for many years in England, so he will be talking to us in English. Go ahead, Francesco. Yes, yes, we can hear you.
confirming what Father Donegas said, I want to say that if it depended on what we eat, and we would have completely different scientific findings. For instance, LGBT and gender dysphoria is extremely common in like gyms and sports, where testosterone is abundantly used. So the abuse of a medicine, just to make an example, will never change your nature. Another example, who has prostate cancer, he makes a lot of use of estrogens, but this can make the man a little bit weaker, but for sure cannot change his sex. So it's useless to blame ecology, environment. So because gender dysphoria has nothing to do with it, is like Father Donega said. Salvitti. Okay, I speak in Italian, so I need a translation. And I thank also Father Antonello for this translation. When I was given this task, I went to search data on the internet to have an understanding about the situation regarding addictions in Canada, with special reference to alcoholism and pornography. Why? Especially alcoholism and pornography, because we know very well that these are two plagues that are destroying also many young people. Of course, alcoholism has always been a plague on a social point of view, but recently the plague, let's say the problem of pornography, has kind of taken over, and it's too, especially because it touches more and more the life of young people who have, of course, their smartphones available all the time, and therefore they can access pornography with a simple click, already starting from an extremely young age. So, studying a little bit what information we can find in the internet, so I found out, for instance, that in Canada, about a year and a half ago, Canada has updated the guidelines, the health guidelines regarding alcohol use. So this Canada Center for the Substance government agency declared that low risk use of alcohol is in the measure of 1 or 2 drinks per week. So, if you want to consume alcohol with no risk or low risk, no more than 1 or 2 drinks per week. That's according to the guidelines. It becomes a moderate risk when we drink from 3 to 6 drinks per week. Beyond that, beyond 6 drinks per week, it's high risk. We become high risk. Now, of course, all the problems related to the use of alcohol are affect very, very severely the system of healthcare. Now, in this data, we see that alcohol is one of the substances which are most consumed and abused in Canada. About 66% of Canadians declare to have drank some alcohol at least once and in the last month, and the consumption is higher in the youth between 20 and 24 years compared to those who have more than 25 years of age. So if problems of abuse are there, about 6 million Canadians more than 12 years of age have experienced some episodes of compulsive drinking at least once a month. 6 million Canadians. All these stats are available on the internet. 21% of Canadian population matches the criteria for alcohol dependence in at least once in the course of their life. That, just to make a comparison, in Italy it was about 10%. I don't know about the most updated data. Alcoholism in Canada causes about 47,000 deaths per year. And also it's a major cause of hospitalization and the use of emergency at the hospital. Now, of course, this, of course, has a huge impact also in terms of, as I said, healthcare and socio-economic effects as well. The most important damages from alcoholism are regarding liver, heart problems, neurological problems, and also psychological effects like depression, anxiety, other mental disturbs. Of course, there are other social and financial problems, job loss, legal problems, also driving high, and domestic violence. Now, regarding pornography, instead, even that, of course, is growing far in Canada as in the rest of the world, yet it's not well spoken about. Regarding pornography, it is established that, of course, with the increase of the access to internet, a growing number of people as developing compulsive behaviors, which are somehow linked to the consumption of pornography, which can affect mental health, interpersonal relation, and sexual health as well, because that can lead also to impotence. Pornography addiction can bring to social isolation, anxiety, depression, and difficulty is intimate relationship. People that are affected by this, they refer that they have a sense of shame, guilt, and let's say, if they have or progress mental problems, these are increased by the use of pornography. So, compulsive use of pornography can definitely bring to a desensitization of sexual impulse, and therefore also a decrease of sexual satisfaction. Now, what I've been, let's say, favorably impacted by this research, I heard that in Canada, Canada also puts as a first possible solution for this problem groups like AA, 12 steps programs. So for pornography, also a therapy, in a special of cognitive behavioral therapy, which somehow is also present in the normal, let's say, AA kind type program. All this data, if someone is interested, I can give the material which and wherever I have taken it from. What do I do in my life? What is my job? Is to recover, is to help and support people who have suffer from these kind of addictions, and especially alcoholism and pornography, which is a very huge amount of population. There are many different treatments for this kind of problems. There are different therapies, but in my own experience, I always found very useful that 12 steps program, which is used, for instance, in AA, Alcoholists Anonymous Alcoholism, because this is an efficacious method which is being used for 90 years now, and also because it puts at the first place as an actor, let's say, to agent to get healed from these problems, God. So it's a program that somehow presupposes some faith, which in AA is spoken about like a superior power, of course, being Alcoholists Anonymous, open to anyone of any faith. They kind of speak about that in sort of a general terms. But the main point is the need for the person to come out of himself or herself and believe that there is someone else who can help them, someone more powerful, because we don't have the power to come out from addictions. We cannot, because addiction is not a vice, it's a sickness, and it's impossible to come out on our own. We need external help. Now, there could be also, for sure, health treatment and even hospitalization, especially in the case of alcoholism. But once the person may come out, maybe coming out from that on a clinical point of view, unless that person that now is clean as a system, a help, a support system 24/7, that person is always at risk of falling back into that addiction, because the impetus, the impulse to look again for those things like alcohol, pornography, will remain still very strong. Why? Because we lose in these addictions there is a failure in the will. The person would like to stop, but does not have the power to do it. Because the desire to stop, to heal those deep wounds that he has, will bring also this person to that addiction, which is in fact a system to cover up those wounds that we bring inside. So we need to accompany that person, the person, to a work that which involves both the emotional and the relational aspects of our personality, and also the spiritual aspect, because addictions are spiritual sicknesses. They interrupt, they break the relationship both with God and the others. The person becomes close to himself or herself. So me and our team that have this experience, what we have seen from 2019 until today, we have received 2,600 requests of help. We gave to all of them an answer, some answer. 1,600 of these people have entered this recovery team group and have started this group therapy. Of course, all of them, they have their own difficulties because it's very difficult. It is not easy. It is very hard to come out from an addiction. We need extreme perseverance and patience, also from side of those who are close to this person, because we need to take into consideration falling backs, relapse on that. We only about 10% of people that are undergoing this therapy support group, only 10% will not relapse in their problem. So 90% will go back, will fall back somehow. So we're talking about therapies and recovery that lasts years. Years. The program can last 1 year only, but the addiction, the dependence lasts the whole life. We can be healed from the symptoms, but from the consequences, though of course wounds remain and scars, but this healing is linked to the fact that this person should not use anymore that substance or the particular kind of addiction. So the alcoholic person will no longer be able to drink any drop of alcohol. It cannot happen. It doesn't happen that someone who was being like in alcoholism that can recover the capacity of drinking, let's say in a proper way, moderately. He can't or she can't. Same thing is with tobacco, for instance. A person who is addicted to nicotine that smokes 30, 40 cigarettes per day and quits smoking, it cannot, like even after many years, let's say, start, to smoke one cigarette or two, because he will fall again into the addiction. Same thing is for alcohol, same thing also for pornography. Any person who has a pornography addiction, or let's say sexual addiction in general, that is able to come out of it and maybe remains for 5-10 years without using pornography, can start to use it again in a more moderate way. It's impossible. It will enter again into the same cycle. We can be healed only that the condition is to come out definitely and definitively and forever from that substance or behavior. I just give therefore an overview of this program of recovery, which is basically the AA program, 12 steps program, which was born 8 years ago from a doctor and a stock market agent that both of them were alcoholics, and they start to help each other, start to see each other every day for hours, and and elaborate this program, and they go on and they go on, and they start to see that this program works fine. It works, and so they start to add other people, and add other people, okay, that start to follow the program, and they find out that actually it helps. And after, even it's interesting that also the wives of these people, they were mostly men at the beginning, but also the wives found out that they also needed help and support, because to live together with someone who is addicted, it's basically creates a sort of a dependence also on the person, because it becomes a sort of an obsession. So you become so addicted that let's say that when the other person, let's say the husband in that case, starts to get healed and to get better, the wife kind of finds herself disoriented, because somehow it's like there is a sort of a subconscious desire of for the husband to actually fall back into an addiction that became her life. So we see in this the need of that familiar, that the relatives and family members of those who are addicted should also follow the program. Follow the program. Now, after a few years of this, another person entered that program. Okay, that was sad. That basically had another form of addiction, which was only called more shameful in those times. They were not speaking, but for sure it was a form of a sexual addiction. Now, the experience of this group was somehow, little by little, transferred to all the form of addiction. So this form of program, this 12 steps program, has been afterwards dedicated to all the possible form of addiction. And there are groups for every form of addiction. Now, what are these 12 steps? In the first step, the person has to acknowledge to have the problem of addiction, whatever addiction is that, and this person, it could be for gambling, for instance, as well, and that their life has become not manageable anymore. So it's something that has become beyond the power of the person. Is the addiction that controls the life of the person and not the other way around. I wouldn't like to look pornography. I wouldn't like to drink or to gamble. Yet I keep on doing it. That's the first thing, to acknowledge that this is the situation. Now, when someone acknowledges this, is fundamental, because that means that we acknowledge that we need help. We need help. Now, the second step, very important, which follows from the first, is to arrive to the acknowledgement that there is a more powerful, a larger, bigger power that can help us, can do what we cannot do. Now, what is this superior power? First of all, is the group. It's a support group where I can call people that are in my same group, to whom I can surrender, okay? And by calling another person, okay, that speaking about that, I find out that my craving, my desire and craving starts to diminish just by the fact of speaking with someone else about that. So the availability of the group's friends, let's say the members of the group, has to be 24/7. 24/7. That's the way we organize. So we need to have people that are available 24/7 for whoever wants to call them. So if a person does not want to fall back, can call a member of the team at any time through, of course, online tools and online means of communication. Could be phone, could be internet, and they can speak. So the second step is to learn to ask for help to the members of the group. Third step is we make the decision to entrust our will and our life to God in the way we understand Him. So, God is the one who saves. Of course, for us who are Catholic, who believe this is kind of easy to understand that, right? We know very well that is God is the one who saves us. It's God who takes care of us. So if this is a relational problem, is emotional and spiritual problem, I need to get back in touch with God. I need to reestablish a connection, a positive connection with God. So first group, the group, and then God. Not, of course, because the group is more powerful, more important than God, but because the person needs to be helped by the group to reestablish a connection with God. And this happens in the third step. Now, these first three steps are the steps of surrender. Surrender, which the person stop fighting to thinking that that the person can do it, but acknowledges that needs help. At this point, we start to go on and beyond. So we have basically uncover the reality. So let's say that the person starts to abstain from that behavior or substance. Now, what do we do at this point? We need to start on the emotional, personal part of oneself. So, the fourth step at this point is to make an inventory, a moral inventory, and very deep about our life. Without fear, honest, sincere. It depends on the person, of course, how long this inventory would take in terms of time. So we need to write the story of our life with all the important events in our life that have brought, of course, we're talking about good facts and bad facts. All the emotions towards that facts, those persons, the reactions. Emotions are not either positive or negative. Emotions are all functional to something else. Even fear is functional to something else. Anger is functional because, for instance, with anger, I can redefine my boundaries. Also sadness, because makes me aware of the fact that I have to do something. So, in addictions, emotions most likely have become exaggerated. So we need to write down our, let's say, life in both in terms of facts and emotions to understand which emotions have taken over, which feelings have taken over my life. Now, of course, let's say just on the practical side, we cannot work on the inventory more than 15 minutes per day because that would be too heavy. But once this is done, the fifth step is to acknowledge in front of God, in front of ourselves, and in front of someone else what we have done wrong. So all this So when my acknowledgement of what I've done wrong, I have to do it, to write it first, and I have to read it in front of another person, which could also be, for instance, a priest in confession. Of course, if that is done, of course, it's better to have an availability of the other person for a lot of time, right? For hours. Of course, if sometimes it's even needed, for instance, for to split this moment into more parts when necessary, but they need to be done in a short span of time, because of course this is a very liberating action, and and of course, most likely we're going to say things that we have never said to anyone. That's why probably is very good, for instance, if the wrongdoing has been very serious, to do it also in confession. But it could be also another person, a member of the team, of the group, that has already an experience on it. It could be a psychotherapist, whoever. But but basically is a gift that someone makes of his her life to someone else. And and in this experience, already from the fourth step, no, because already by writing, by writing our life, there is a figure in the group, which in the AA is called sponsor or mentor. So it's someone basically who has experience in the program and that helps the person uh, to go through the program. So when someone gets kind of stuck, for instance, calls the mentor, and the mentor suggests what is the best thing to do. So just to say, that there is a help. There is a help in this program of recovery, of rehabilitation. We are never alone, never. So the fifth pass, as I said, is to speak, and then after that we pass to the sixth step. The sixth step is we were completely ready to accept that God eliminates all these defects of our character. So I have identified my defects. I don't know, anger, laziness, or also more serious things like stealing, I don't know, beating someone up, things like violence. All these defects must be corrected because, of course, if we want to recover from our problem, we need to come out from this. So now, in order to every defect, the person chooses a corrective action together with the group and the mentor, or with a spiritual director, whoever is helping. The mentor, the guide, can also be changed with time. So little by little, every time the defect comes out, so it's important to see and to have the program in mind for the 24 hours. Why? To have a range of time of 24 hours, because this gives the person a possibility of concentration and focus, which is much stronger, because otherwise we'll start to think about the past, which is of course full of sense of guilt, and the future that creates a lot of anxiety because the person is still struggling with that problem. So the important thing is only for today. Do the program for today, 24 hours, apply the steps for those 24 hours. And put in your time of the day, besides whatever you are doing, your main occupation, job, working, study, whatever it is, also some pleasant actions, sober action, pleasant, that of course will give some gratification to that day that will help not to go for look for some gratification and consolation in the addiction, in the addictive behavior or substance. And of course, we need to ask God to eliminate these defects of our character. Now, it's likely that God will not eliminate every single defect, okay? Though, of course, He could do it. But it is anyway likely that a person will have some, let's say, victories of some defect, but will keep the person will keep on doing by with corrective actions, laws. Let's say, making an example, if someone has the addiction of stealing, okay, compulsive stealing, will have to always go and give back in the same day the same thing. I have the tendency of getting angry all the time on my spouse. I will need to do an action which is compensative of that. Now, if you are doing well the program, at this point, you are already at 8, 9 steps. 8, 9 months. Now, the following step is to make a list of all the people that you have been, dealing with our addiction, to whom we have hurt somehow. We make a list and we make a resolution to have a corrective action towards everyone. So I will make an example. I was drunk and I bumped on the car of my neighbor. Okay, so maybe that's the time to give back. Okay, to refund. Okay, the neighbor, for instance, of the damage I have created. These are past step 8, making the list, and 9th step is the corrective amending action. The 10th step at this point is basically a summary of all the steps we have made in the course of the time, and all these steps from 1 to 9 are redone every single day. Every single day, all the steps from 1 to 9, so that we may live every single day in the grace of God. The target is that the sun should not set on our anger, our sin. So the main point is that who comes out from hell does not want to go back, of course. So step 11 is that through prayer and meditation, our relationship with God has increased. Praying to only to know His will for us, and to beg for the strength to put this will into action. This, of course, should be done in a community of faith. Of course, the increased relationship, improved relationship with God will give more spiritual strength to the person. Step number 12, final step, is that having gained a spiritual reawakening as an outcome of all these steps, we have tried to bring this message to those who still suffer and to put into practice the principle in all our activity. So, whoever has done basically this program, whoever has done all this program and sees the positive outcome, also in the same program commits basically to help the others, those who have the same problem. And this can be applied to all the aspects of our life. So, just for an example, is quite common that we might pass from an addiction, form of an addiction to another. So we need to keep constantly in mind our frailty of the possibility of relapse into other addiction. So to keep that in mind, this frailty, this this weakness is extremely wise from on the side, and a wise way to follow this program. So this program, the 12 steps program, is can be applied to any form of addiction, which we apply in our group which we called Saint Augustine's friend and Saint Mary Magdalene's friend. And these groups do and give very good results. This is basically what I wanted to say. I don't have anything else to add.
Thank you very much, Gianna. We give an applause to her. And now we move into questions and answers, if there is anyone who would like to ask. Gianna, ho detto che adesso passiamo alle domande e risposte che volevo fare.
When she speaks.
Questions? Yes, go ahead. Gianna chiedeva qui un membro della comunità come si può applicare questo per i giovani. Se
The
hai
question
qualche-
is how to apply this to the young people.
Non ti sento, se puoi.
Should I take away the
No, she's asking if that is about minors.
Togliela, take away the translation. Gianna,
Of course, if you can give something in general about it. We have a lot of youth in our groups, but they are all 18 years and older. And the discourse is exactly the same as what I have said so far. They do the recovery program, and they are they have a mentor, and they do the same program of recovery. Normally, they do recover earlier and than the older, because of course it's the earlier we start the process of the therapy, and the earlier we are healed and we come out. What we do, we give a phone number on email, and when to the youth, to everybody, if they can call us or send us an email, and we answer very quickly to give this person the technical indications how to enter in the group, and they enter right away in the group. So he's saying that basically in our society, pornography and things like this are taken as a normal thing, as entertainment. So there is not even a problem. So how do help families and teachers and schools to understand the problem in itself? Now, for the parents, we do the groups, same thing, just for the parents. They enter into the same group. So they may learn the method and they can help the children because maybe the children were not too much convinced to enter. Now, same thing could be done by the teachers. So the program, the recovery program, is very demanding. So the parent who does the same has to do it well in order to learn. Like there are many things that are very, very demanding. So when someone does not have the problem in itself because only someone else who live close to them, um, it's hard for someone who does not have in itself the problem uh, to do this program. Like today, a mother wrote to me that she sent a child to this group for the child as a drug addiction and said, my child has only done one meeting and that's it, and it was over. What can I do? What can I do to help him? And what I write, what I wrote to her is just to help him, insisting and some with no, not with kindness surely, but pushing, let's say, with kindness the person to do, to keep on going. The same thing should be done by the teachers, for instance. If you find out, the point, who has the problem with pornography, for instance, in the very beginning, uh, maybe not right away, but after a little while, whoever can realize that this a form of addiction, that it's a slavery, see, because you arrive to a more to that you could even do uh let's say pornography can lead even for to to the act even up to 60 times a day, which of course completely precludes the possibility of living a normal life. Demanding. Thank you. Thank you. Grazie. Grazie. Lord is with thee. Yes.